Hey everyone, you did not miss the boat with Bitcoin. Everyone's worried that they got to the party late, the party's almost over, that it would have been an amazing opportunity to buy Bitcoin if they had just done it sooner, but now the party's over, they missed the boat, all this sort of stuff. None of that is true. We are incredibly early in the adoption of Bitcoin worldwide. Something like 4%, 4% of Americans own Bitcoin. 96% of Americans own zero Bitcoin. Zero. The total worldwide adoption of Bitcoin is 3%. 3% of the people on the planet own Bitcoin. 97% of the people own zero Bitcoin. So picture this. You're going to a party and there's expected to be 300 people. And you get to the party and there's only 9 people there. You're so early that there's only nine of the 300 people that are expected to come to this party are there. And you throw up your hands and leave because you're like, I'm late. I'm late to the party. 3% of the people are here. 3 out of 300. Or sorry, 9 out of 300. 3% of the people are here. I'm late to the party. I'm just going to go home. Give me a break. You're not late to the party. 3% of the world has adopted Bitcoin and you feel like you're late to the party. Yesterday, the first major country adopted Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset, the United States, when Donald Trump created the strategic Bitcoin reserve literally last night. Literally less than 24 hours ago, the first major country established a strategic Bitcoin reserve less than 24 hours ago. And the price is still at basically the same price for the reason I explained this morning as it was yesterday before that happened. So you can still buy Bitcoin for cheap right now. So let's recap. Almost nobody owns Bitcoin yet. The people who do own Bitcoin, it is a very small percentage of their holdings. Almost nobody on the planet is like me with 99% of my liquid assets in Bitcoin. I'm an extreme anomaly with 99% of my liquid assets in Bitcoin. Now, I don't own as much Bitcoin as some people think I do for reasons I've covered in a video that I titled Why I Don't Own More Bitcoin or something like that. I forget the title. And it has to do with the fact that I spent a ton of my financial resources on politics and public policy to make the world a better place between 2014 and 2021. But of what was left of my financial resources after that 8 years burning through vast quantities of money in the political process, of what is left, 99% is now in Bitcoin. 99%. That's my level of conviction. But very few sovereign wealth funds own any Bitcoin. Almost no sovereign nations own Bitcoin. Even the United States, the initial strategic Bitcoin reserve is being funded with Bitcoin that they had from a seized assets back in 2014, more than 11 years ago. But the U.S. government will buy more Bitcoin and more countries will start establishing strategic reserves. So if you feel like you're late to the party, there has never been, I'll just assure you, there's never been a better time to buy Bitcoin. There's never been a time where the risk profile of Bitcoin was lower than it is today. Right now, the risk profile of Bitcoin is the lowest it's ever been in history, with the largest and most powerful, the largest economy in the world and the most powerful country in the world being the United States, establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve last night. The upside of Bitcoin as compared to the risk has also never been higher. So think about it. Uh, right now, the price is only about 30% higher than the day before Donald Trump was elected president as a very pro Bitcoin president. The price is only 30% higher. Well, the regulatory and legal and political and tax environment for Bitcoin is 300% better than before Donald Trump was elected. So the price, the environment is 300% better. The price is only 30% up, which tells you that 9/10 of the benefit that will ultimately accrue from having Donald Trump as president rather than Kamala Harris as it relates to Bitcoin, 90% of the benefit of that is not yet reflected in the price. The Bitcoin exchange traded funds that were approved 1 year ago in January of 2024, probably 10x the total market. Yet the price is less than double from the day those were approved right now. So the price has less than doubled, except the total sort of reach of the Bitcoin ETFs probably expanded by 10x the total number of people that could easily buy Bitcoin with the push of a button. So it's doubled, but double is way different. But double is 2x, not 10x. The other 8x is yet to be felt. Like there's a huge amount of upside still there. So bottom line on Bitcoin is we are still very early in the adoption process. 9 cents, everybody felt like they were late to the party and they had missed the boat because they could have gotten it for less than 1 penny a few weeks or a few months sooner. And at 90 cents, everybody felt like they had missed the boat. They were late to the party because if they were going to buy Bitcoin, they should have done it at 9 cents when they first heard about it, not at 90 cents at the time that they're thinking these thoughts. $9, everybody was saying, you know what? If I was going to buy Bitcoin, I should have done it at 90 cents. Now it's $9 and I should have bought it at 9 cents and I'm not going to buy it at $9 because it's so expensive now. At $90, people were like, well, if I was going to buy Bitcoin, I should have bought it at $9. Now it's $90. Now it's so expensive. I missed the boat. I'm late to the party. I don't want to be the last one in, and then same thing at $900, people thought, well, if I was going to buy Bitcoin, I should have bought it at $90, not $900. At $9,000, everybody was saying, well, if I was going to buy Bitcoin, I would have bought it at $900. Now it's $9,000. Now it's so expensive. I feel like I've missed the boat. I feel like I'm late to the party. So here we are at $90,000. And do you know what people are saying? They're saying the exact same thing they were saying 16 years ago or 15, 14 and a half, 15 years ago when Bitcoin first had a price. They're saying the same thing. Right now at $90,000, people are saying, if I were going to buy Bitcoin, I should have bought it back when it was $9,000. Now it's $90,000. Now it's so expensive. I feel like I've missed the boat. I feel like I'm late to the party. Do you know what people are going to be saying when Bitcoin is $900,000 a coin? I can tell you. I can tell you right now. I know exactly what people are going to be saying when Bitcoin is $900,000 a coin. They're going to be saying, I should have bought Bitcoin at $90,000. I don't want to buy Bitcoin now at $900,000 because I feel like I'm late to the party. I feel like I missed the boat. And if I was going to buy Bitcoin, I should have bought it back when it was $90,000. Now, guess what people are going to be saying when Bitcoin hits $9 million a coin? I can promise you, I know exactly what they're going to be saying at $9 million a coin. They're going to be saying, if I was going to buy Bitcoin, I should have bought Bitcoin at $900,000 a coin. Now it's so expensive at $9 million a coin. I feel like I've missed the boat. I feel like I'm late to the party. This is crazy. you know, Nobody's late to the party. Nobody missed the boat. The vast majority of the upside of Bitcoin is ahead of us, not behind us. The vast majority of the adoption of Bitcoin is ahead of us, not behind us. There's incredible opportunity to buy Bitcoin when it is massively de-risked. So, yeah, if you had bought Bitcoin when it was cheaper than now, you would have more upside in the future and the past than you do right now buying Bitcoin. But the risk profile was radically higher in the past. So everybody thinks they wanted to buy Bitcoin back when it was a lot cheaper, and they don't realize, yeah, but back when it was a lot cheaper, it was a lot cheaper because the risk was a lot higher. It was a lot less certain that Bitcoin would be the future monetary system of the world. It was a lot less certain that the United States government would adopt a strategic Bitcoin reserve. It was a lot less certain that Bitcoin exchange traded funds would ultimately launch and become the most successful exchange traded funds that have ever launched in the stock market in the history of the stock market. All of that was unknown. All of that was uncertain. Now all of that is known. Now all of that is certain. All of the worldwide adoption of Bitcoin, the stability of Bitcoin, the security of Bitcoin, the infallibility of Bitcoin, all of the things that we know now that Bitcoin is more than 16 years old are all in the past, which means all of that risk associated with those things is now gone, making, in my opinion, Bitcoin probably the safest investment in the entire world right now. If somebody said, Joel, invest in something and don't worry about upside, just worry about absolute certainty and safety, I would pick Bitcoin. I would pick Bitcoin because Bitcoin is demonetizing gold. In the past, most people would have said gold. They would have said, okay, if all I'm worried about is downside, gold at least has been around a long time. But Gold was only valuable because of its monetary properties. Bitcoin has radically better monetary properties than gold, which means I think Bitcoin is the most certain investment a person can make right now. Now, in the short term, it will go up and down. In the short term, it is volatile, but it is only volatile because it's early in the adoption cycle. And all technologies, all assets, all financial instruments are volatile when they are early in the adoption process. Late in the adoption process, they are not volatile. But late in the adoption process, also the massive upside that everybody wants is not there. So once something is no longer volatile, it no longer has the huge economic upside of in the early adoption stage. All things that are early in the adoption stage are volatile. 100% of things that have a high long-term potential return, 100% of them are volatile in the short term. And they are volatile in the short term because adoption is not a linear straight line. It's just everybody's doing different things. News articles are hitting every different day. That makes people wonder how long, and how quickly Bitcoin will be adopted, how fast it will be adopted, the pace, in which countries, how fast, all this sort of stuff. There's just a million moving parts. So we are very early in the Bitcoin adoption life cycle. In my opinion, the lowest risk thing you can invest in right now if you can stomach the volatility, and the highest upside thing. It's just an incredible time to invest in Bitcoin. And I know in the future, a bunch of people are going to tell me, Joel, I really, really, really wish I had bought as much Bitcoin as I possibly could below $90,000 per coin. And I'm going to say, well, why didn't you? And they're going to say, well, because I felt like I had missed out. I had felt like I missed out. I felt like I was late to the party. I felt like I had missed the boat. And I'm here to tell you, you haven't. And those that listen will buy more Bitcoin, and those that don't will find out 10 years from now, when Bitcoin's way above $1 million per coin, that they did indeed miss the boat. And they are indeed late to the party. And dang, wouldn't it have been nice to buy a ton of Bitcoin for a radically cheaper price than what you're going to have to pay in the future? You're going to have to adopt Bitcoin eventually. It's inevitable because otherwise you're just going to lose purchasing power because everything else loses money. So you're going to have to adopt it eventually. The question is, do you adopt it early in the cycle or late in the cycle? And right now, ladies and gentlemen, it is early in the Bitcoin worldwide adoption cycle. So go buy as much Bitcoin as you possibly can and hold on to it for as long as conceivably possible. And in my opinion, even though this is not financial advice, that is the best investment decision a person could make. That is my personal opinion. Have a great day, everyone.